Hey, in this episode, I have George Tinsley Sr., owner of 60-ish restaurants that are all in airports. He's built an empire from PF Chang's to KFC to Starbucks. Starbucks, by the way, we get into that. Like, how in the world do you have a Starbucks? But he learned from the Colonel at KFC himself. We had some fun conversations around that. And we talked a lot about challenges, because sometimes people think when someone's built such a successful organization, a lot of it has been pretty easy. Easy as a franchisee, easy dealing with the franchisors. And that cannot be further from the truth. So we got into a lot of the things that went wrong and why things went right. Hope you enjoy the episode.
Representing Franchise Secrets, Erik Van Horn.
Hey, George, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Erik. Glad to be here.
Now, you'd been on one of my early podcasts. I started a podcast with my friend Brian Holmes called The Franchise Story, and you were on that where Brian interviewed you. So I'm looking forward to getting to interview you and getting to know you a bit. You've done a lot in franchising, so ready to hop into it?
I'm ready to go and good to have this opportunity to interact with you.
Absolutely. So, as I understand it, you are in the food business. Everything's in an airport. Like, you have 60-ish locations from KFC to Chili's to PF Chang's, burgers, pizza, Starbucks, hot dogs. Like, you've got it all. Give us a little bit of the backstory so we can start diving into some questions that I have for you.
Well, Erik, my food service business background started back in 1976 with Kentucky Fried Chicken Corporation, where I actually went to work after a professional athletic career and teaching and coaching career. So sort of my third career that I got into the restaurant side of it, and became a trainer at KFC corporate headquarters in Louisville, Kentucky, and working with the Colonel himself. So I learned firsthand from the guy who invented the concept as far as the chicken side of the business, and worked with franchisees for my first 3 years, training franchisees. I had to learn first myself, and on hands-on training in the restaurants, in the classroom, with the overall policies, procedures, and all of that stuff, incorporating that into a training program. So I taught basic management skills and also a program called Train the Trainer, teaching trainers how to train. And the Colonel was a part of my presentation. He would appear a couple of days a week, and we'd go into the kitchen and cook and learn all about his history, etc. So I became the expert on the Colonel's background in how KFC started out, and fell in love with it. Next to athletics, that became my first love. I just enjoyed the interaction and so forth. And most of these people were millionaires who had invested to become a franchisee, and some were employees of those franchisees. So after doing that for about 3 years, I was getting all kinds of job opportunities within KFC Corporation to go out into the field and work in different areas. So I finally took an opportunity to go to Atlanta, Georgia, and become an area supervisor of 7 restaurants. And that started my operational side of the career. And I did that for a couple of years, got promoted to district manager, then back to the corporate office at Human Resources, covering everything from Kentucky to Hawaii. And then I took a sidestep and became a franchise manager, which is a person that is the liaison between the corporation and the franchisee, making sure that they're adhering to all the policies and procedures, and also the training and helping them out. Eventually, after doing that for a while, I got the opportunity to become a franchisee myself in in Auburndale, Florida. And that was in 1984. And so I started my first restaurant, KFC, in Auburndale, Florida. And then we kind of grew year after year to we were up to about 12 KFCs. And then I had an opportunity to get into the airport business, taking a KFC into Tampa Airport. Well, that didn't materialize, but going through that whole process, I wound up with an opportunity to open a TGI Fridays and become a TGI Fridays franchisee and open a TGI Fridays franchise in Tampa, Florida. And that began my airport career working with partner HMS Host, who is a master concessionaire. Developed a relationship with them, and where I was a majority partner there, and that restaurant took off and became a number one TGI Fridays in the nation, and those opportunities opened up where I went from Tampa to Miami, and from Miami to Louisville, which is my hometown, and that's how the career expanded, and in multiple brands, getting involved with multiple brands and different packages that request for proposal in different airports, where there's airports want specific meal presentations, hamburger, chicken, or maybe coffee. And so therefore I developed the relationships with these different companies along with HMS Host, and became licensed and franchisees in the airport. So that's kind of a short story of that very long 40-year career.
Attention, franchisors and franchisees. There are two really important resources that I want to share with you that will help you avoid costly mistakes and increase your enterprise value. The first is our free Facebook group. It's a community that has over 4,000 franchisees and franchisors in it. When somebody asks a question, they get honest and authentic answers from multiple perspectives. You can join the group for free over at franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. The second resource I want to share with you is if you're a franchisor and you're frustrated that you're not awarding as many franchises as you thought you would, this is the reason I created the Franchisor Mastermind. If you want access to the information, the techniques that the best franchise sales organizations are using to award franchises, and you want what mature brands have with their playbook of having happy, successful franchisees that grow the right way, then you might want to check out the Franchisor Mastermind. The reason why people join is they want access to my Rolodex, my connections. They want the playbook to achieve both short-term and long-term success. They want to increase enterprise value in their brand. Links will be in the show notes or at scalablefranchise.com. I can't wait to learn some things from you. Let's go back to the Colonel. I'm sure anytime you drop the Colonel's name, like people just think like, wow, what an opportunity to learn from somebody that, you know, is just so accomplished in franchising. What are some of the things that you learned from him that, you know, way back when that you still remember or implement today?
Well, the first thing the first response is, you actually work with the real Colonel is usually the first thing. Now I have to pull up a picture and show them the real story and the picture so they can have the believability. But yes, he was a very interesting man who had tried a little bit of everything. And finally, in his fourth quarter of his life, he developed this recipe, and he was actually just cooking chicken out of the back of a restaurant service station in Corbin, Kentucky, on Highway 1, people moving up and down, and he was serving it, putting on his white suit and his goatee and everything, and developed a reputation with those folks. When the highway changed to 75 opened up north and south, then it took away his business, and that's where he started franchising his concept. So what I learned from the Colonel was the true entrepreneurial spirit. and what it took to actually be successful. All of the little things like service, clean restaurant, communications with your guests, and working on repeat customers, not the customers becoming relations. You develop a relationship with that particular customer where what we call kerneling, getting out into the lobby and talking to talking to the customers as an owner and developing that relationship that customer goes out and tells 10 other people, who tell 10 other people, and before long, your base just develops and it spreads all over. There's no limit. People eat with their eyes and their other senses. So if a customer comes in your door, has a good feel, good service, clean restaurant, interaction, they don't mind spending their hard-earned cash for that particular meal. And they'll put up with some mistakes that you have. So the Colonel really preached to making sure that the little phrase he used was, if you got time to lean, you got time to clean, which actually meant just keep the restaurant clean. Nobody's standing around talking and lollygagging. You're constantly doing something, because the customer sits in a lobby. They look at this restaurant. They see everything. They hear everything. So if your employees are standing around, if they're gossiping and all those, they pick up on that stuff, and that adds to a negative experience versus a positive experience. So all of those little things I learned from him. And during that period where I was actually teaching the class with these different franchisees, new franchisees and existing franchisees, I picked up war stories from those folks. So I did not have that experience myself. My experience was in athletics, team leadership, all of those other characteristics that I was able to put together with what I was learning from the Colonel, which helped me when I got in the position to actually operate and develop business. So I would say that first 3 years experience in working with him and those very, very different franchisees really helped me get started off in the right way.
So I'm sure not all franchisees were like super happy all the time. And
No.
So how did he deal with franchisees that thought they had a better system, a better solution, a better way to cook the chicken, a better way to decorate the stores, a better way to run the business? What was his go-to on dealing with franchisees that wanted to do a lot of the changes?
Well, the Colonel himself had very little tolerance with respect to anybody doing anything different from what he was doing. And he wasn't in position to deal with that from the standpoint of franchising, if you will, as a franchisor. As an independent entrepreneur, he knew what he wanted, and that might change at any particular time, but he was doing it, and he was responsible for whether his customers were happy or whether they were not. Now, what happens at the corporate level in the franchisor relationship, you work very hard to make sure that you get it right, and you have your procedures and so forth to follow to make sure that folks are doing it the right way. Because if they don't do it the right way, then the product is not going to come out correctly, and you're going to fail. Bottom line, so that's the part about becoming a franchisee with a franchisor, is because the franchisor has a proven product, has the resources to keep you in line as far as proceeding with cooking and serving and development and so forth. If you deviate from that and you want to do George Tinsley's fried chicken, then that's on you, and you're not going to be successful. Plus, you're going to take down some of the other close restaurants, because you as a customer, when you drive by, you see that sign and you expect to see the same thing at every location. And that's why the franchisors like McDonald's and Starbucks and so forth, who have hardcore guidelines that who will lock your doors if you don't do what they've asked you to do as far as the guidelines, then they're successful.
So you've been very successful with 60-ish locations, and you've learned a lot, probably a lot of what not to do and a lot of what works. And as you've gone from system and franchise to franchise and have expanded your empire, your footprint, I'm sure there's temptation to think that you know better than the franchisor. And in some cases, you might have a better idea. You might have a solution to a problem that they've had. So how do you go about balancing all of your experience and yet not overrunning or overpowering or trying to invent too much with a new franchise system that you get involved with?
For me, that's been very simple. Okay. And a lot of that came from my background in working into getting started off with the training program and with the Colonel. And that is that I believe and stuck to the guidelines that any particular franchisor has out there. Now, we implement their procedures and their way of doing things, but you as your own personal entrepreneur, you can add your own characteristics, your own personality, your own protocols along with it without deviating from the basics of that particular franchisor. Sure, guys and girls who get into this business, you become millionaires, and all of a sudden you think you know it all, and which is in some instances good because you're an entrepreneur, but you got to stick to the basics and constantly having retraining, because the other side of it is that most franchisors are constantly evolving also. They're changing and menu items, and they're doing different things with build outs, layouts of how, and different cookers and all those kinds of pieces that go inside that four walls. So you have to kind of keep up with that. So it's kind of an ongoing working hand in hand with the brand itself, and also keeping your customers who are local community folks being able to adjust to their needs as well.
So I would say you are in established brands, KFC, Pizza Hut, Starbucks, Burger King. Like, these are all established brands. And I can just hear some of my listeners saying, gotta be easy to do that for George, because these things are time tested, they're proven, they're established, and it's just the easy button. All you have to do is just open up the store, get some employees going, and keep the employee retention high, and you're making money. Probably no challenges with the franchisor. Is that a true statement?
Far from it. Part of it is that you get into and you pay for franchise rights. You pay for and you're going to pay royalties. You got guidelines. That you're getting resources from that particular brand. That's the good part about it, and that gets you started off right. But the location that you have, how your building is developed. Most franchisors don't tell you exactly how to do things. They approve the site, and it's on you to take that development and develop it to be able to handle whatever your business projections are. So, and the other part of it, which is, I think, misunderstood sometimes, even though you're a franchisee, you're still going to be competing with that franchisor if they have a location within a certain area. And if they're not performing well, it's going to affect you. And if, the locations, customers may choose to go to them versus you. So you're an independent business person. It's a partnership, but it's on you to it's competition, if you will. So I think that working with a franchisor, a strong franchisor, definitely gives you a heads up, gives you enough up on other types of business, but it's not a perfect world. It's on you. You're an independent operator. You've got your investment, and you've got to take what you get from them and take it to the next level. So for us, from the standpoint of the basic stuff, meaning product preparation, customer service, cleanliness in the restaurant, community involvement, whether that be in the airport or whether that be on the street, and employing the right people, training them, and holding folks accountable, developing your team. Those that's the difficult part, and that's the part that a lot of people don't really focus on. And you've got to keep your eyes on your business. You can't open a business and all of a sudden become the absentee owner, because your management team or whoever you have operating your restaurant takes it down the road that they may want to, not intentionally, but take it down differently from what you want as a franchisee. So it's involvement, it's a commitment, it's a heavy commitment to be involved. And I tell people probably in the last 5 years I may have been on 2 vacations. And you work on the weekends. You sometimes it's late at night, sometimes early in the morning. So you've got to be on your game. You got to have good people underneath you to help you through all of this. So it's not a turnkey easy operation.
I want to get into your team, how you develop your team, how you grow your team, how you mentor them. But before I do that, just to talk about the pain a little bit more, because I've lost money. I've had some brands where I've lost money. I got involved and I lost money. And that's why I like talking about the realities of franchising, because not everything you touch will turn to gold. I love it when brands have franchisees that are making money. Like if a franchisee is making money, if they have that top 20%, they're doing really well, you can look to them and be like, the system works, the model works. I can trust it. I can follow it. There's, I don't see very many systems out there where the systems are broken. Usually it's the franchisee that's not implementing the system the right way. But for you, have you had any locations, we don't have to mention any brands or anything, but any locations that were slow starts, maybe real slow starts, maybe what you would, at the time going through it would consider a failure?
Well, my third restaurant, KFC, we built it based off of the excitement of what was called then baseball boardwalks, I-4 and 27 area, and I don't mind mentioning it. This was an area that was up and coming, and so I invested about $1.2 million in the location as far as building it out. The restaurant only did 600. It was a painful experience where I actually worked 7 days a week running it myself, trying to turn it around. It was right on I-4, heavy traffic and so forth, but it just wasn't the base there. Today, that area is booming. Davenport, Florida, and it's boomed up the scales. But we operated for about 2.5 years, and finally had to close it down. So that was my first bad experience there. I had another restaurant that I had the #1 TGI Fridays in the nation. I had the lowest volume TGI Fridays in the nation. I bought it because I thought that I could turn it around, and really invested another $1 million into development, infrastructure, and really fixing the place up. But it was just a bad location within a number of different brands that affected the employee base. Was interacting with each other, and they had a little game they were working, and so forth. I actually even had to bring police in to help on the weekends because of different things that were going on. It was just a bad experience, and I'm an experienced operator, and actually in that restaurant on a day-to-day basis, busting up some of the stuff that was going on. So it is, it's not all a bed of roses, and it's not all success. I've had probably 3 bad experiences that could have very easily taken us out. but fortunately, we started off good and we were able to spend those off and even filed bankruptcy in one of them. So it happens.
See, I think that's important though, because that might be somebody's first or second or third location like yours, but it didn't stop you.
But no.
And I think, I do a lot of passive investing outside of franchise, like true passive investments, and you'll have, we have failures in those, and there's going to be failures in franchise brands as well, with franchisees, but it doesn't mean the system's bad. It doesn't mean you should stop. It doesn't necessarily mean that. So tell me about some expected or surprisingly great success stories that you've had.
I'm going to give you one. I'm going to cite one. That very first restaurant that I opened, and we were probably into year 5 and started developing some other KFCs at the time. I think we had 2 other. And one day the restaurant caught on fire and burned down, which was probably the biggest setback that I could imagine. But while we were watching, while I was standing on the parking lot watching the restaurant burn and the firemen putting it out and traffic backed all up and customers standing on the sidewalk and employees, even people walking up offering me money, $5, $20, and so forth. They really appreciated what we were doing in the community, and they were trying to help and show that they cared. While standing there, I knew it was going to take me 60, 90 days possibly to scrape and rebuild, get it back open. So automatically I'm thinking that, how do we rebuild and we make it even better? I'm going to go through this insurance thing. The FBI showed up and wanted to know whether we burned the restaurant down, because I've got this number 1 restaurant and I've got the other restaurant that I mentioned earlier that was it was not performing well at all. So our financing group, I think there was some concern there. But in the midst of all this, I saw these trucks, lunch trucks. This was back in the early 90s. These lunch trucks that were lined up going to make their lunch stops. So the idea came to me that, hey, since I can't, while we're down and the customers can't come to me, I can go to them. So I bought me a truck, and I brought a truck and put a warming cabinets on it, cash register, a refrigeration unit, they had a generator on it, got a window for sales and so forth. And I followed those trucks to all of their different stops and what time they were getting there. So I went to my other restaurants and I loaded up and got a product there to actually go and follow or beat them to the punch to actually sell the product. And was actually doing about $1,500 a day tops. And did that, and then came back to the burned down site to let customers know that we were going to be back. We'd be coming back and rebuilding. So the restaurant was doing about $1 million when it burned down, which was our highest volume restaurant. When we reopened, within a short frame of time, we were back up on track for $2 million, and it became a $2 million plus restaurant. And I was able to design a restaurant where we could handle more traffic, customer traffic, and also drive-through traffic. So that was a bad experience. It really turned into a wonderful experience.
That is great. That's a good one. All right. To build an empire this big or a business this large, you have to have a strong team. Can you give us a sense of today, like what your leadership team looks like and what your responsibility includes? Like, where do you sit on the org chart?
Well, today, after being in business for 42 years, and we've started our transition where my son is now the president of the company. My wife and I are still heavily involved, but he's the president. We're supporting him. So we're transitioning to his leadership. And in doing so, we have divested our restaurants that we had on the street and maintaining the restaurants we have in the airport. So our structure basically, he's in the leadership position with our support. My wife and I, we have our office staff, which has been reduced a little bit, but we have an office staff. Then we have supervisors, multi-unit supervisors in each airport, and beneath them, management teams in each restaurant. So this is, and we have partnerships in some of these concepts with HMS Host, which is our partner in the airports, and that's pretty much the only way you can get into most airports is go in as a partner with some of these master concessionaires. And HMS Host has been our partner since 1995. So they have management team members as well. So it's a combination of us always working together. We have monthly meetings. We even have weekly meetings in some cases based off of what's going on. Quarterly meetings, constant review of income statements at store level, and bigger picture when we look at the overall corporate structures and each airport on a semi-annual basis. So what we call our owners meeting. So it's a pretty involved system, and our staff is very good. We're proud of them. We constantly in touch. I make appearances, visits to all the different airports. My son is working in each one of the airports as well. So it's a pretty involved system. But after working with KFC Corporation for 8 years and working through their system and running from 7 restaurants to 50 restaurants to 3 different regions, I learned how the leadership structure works and how you need to stay involved with things on a regular basis. So we're able to transfer that over to our business. My wife came out of the radio business, where she was a general manager of 3 different radio stations. So she had that skill set. She was a school teacher prior also. And we've been married 52 years. So it's all working together has really benefited us. And we're very strong in the communities that we do business in. And that's helped also.
How do you be strong in the community that you do business in, even though you don't live there? Explain that to me.
Very, very, very easy. As you get started in your business, let's say you open a PF Chang's in Tampa, Florida. I don't live in Tampa. I'm about an hour and a half away. Then what we do is we invite the community in for the restaurant pre-opening so that they get a chance to experience what we're doing, hear about what we're doing. They know about us. Now, of course, in Tampa, I had 4 KFCs there prior. So I knew folks in the community. And so that kind of evolves. And you get involved in the chamber, you get involved in the different community bases, and your employees come out of those communities. So you have those relationships that you're able to build on also. So that's pretty much how we get started. As I mentioned to you before, spending time in the restaurant, talking to customers in the airport. You got people that are coming through the airport that you talk to. I give you a quick story. People, Fridays, when we first opened the TGI Fridays, I had people, we had to close it down because of the new request for proposal and expansion of the airport. A lot of people were upset because they'd actually met their wives there. They had deep feelings, and those are built off of actually being in the restaurant, talking to customers, where they're coming from, where they're going, letting them know who you are. You develop those relationships, and the people that those hardcore travelers, they're in and out every week. So you get the ongoing relationship with them. And the new ones, you talk to them about their experiences and the Fridays in their area. And so forth. I use Fridays as that example. So it's being a former school teacher, being a former athlete, anytime that by being 6'5", people ask you, did you play basketball? And that starts up a conversation that takes it to a whole new level. So all of those pieces work as far as the relationship, but actually getting involved in supporting athletic programs, supporting other programs for youth in particular are needy in some areas. And as I said, being involved with the chambers, that takes it to a whole new level.
So when you're looking for a manager or somebody in leadership position at one of your locations, you're looking for somebody that is involved in the community or can be involved in the community, can go to those chamber events and different things. Is that on the list of desires for employees?
Not necessarily on the manager level, but if it's a supervisor, yes. Managers are pretty much 5 days to 6 days, some cases a week. And so on their off time, you don't want to require them to go to these meetings. But a supervisor has a little more flexibility. They can be involved. But more importantly, as an owner, it's more important for us to be involved. In our business, as we started off, I did the operations. My wife ran the office, and she did the community stuff. She was on the chamber board. She became president of the chamber. She was on the national organizations, and I got involved with the NBA, as Retired Players Association, became chairman of the board of the Retired Players Association, the NBA, involved with a number of other national programs in my college and so forth. And so, that kind of develops it, and where you have the opportunity to be on a podcast like this, and people hear about you, and you reach back out, you go speak, and so forth. So I've been fortunate enough to develop 2 books, one biography and one autobiography that also gets the word out about who you are, about your business, and the things that you do. And that also helps as far as development as well.
What are the name of the books?
The first book was The Determined Entrepreneur. It was the biography. The second one is called Catch as Catch Can, which is the autobiography. And we just this week hit the #1 bestseller in several different categories. So we're very, very proud of that book. And we have a website, tinsleyspeaks.com, that talks about all the different things that we do from the standpoint of coaching and counseling, speaking engagements, and so forth.
So that helps with kind of personal branding. So
Yes.
speak to that personal branding as a franchisee. So you're not a franchisor. I think all franchisors should be listening to this, but even as a franchisee that does not think personal branding may be important, what would you have told your younger self when you're first starting out, knowing what you know today about books and getting on podcasts as a franchisee? What would you have done sooner or implemented earlier in your career from a personal branding standpoint?
Eric, I don't think I would have done too much different, because my first 5 years of the business, I paid close attention to the operation. I had skin in the game, and I was worried about making those payments. And so fortunately, my wife was able to do the outside community stuff and any kind of recognition that came from that. Several times I tried to join boards, get involved in the community, but I had missed a bunch of meetings because I needed to be in that restaurant to grow sales. And I mean, it became, I became addictive to it. I mean, we were hitting sales records every every week. And I realized what was going on there. We had our first restaurant was in Arbondale, Florida, a community of 8,000 people. That restaurant in 2 years became the #1 restaurant in the whole state of Florida for top line sales, and then became #1 in the nation for KFC. We were winning all kinds of awards and so forth. So the only way that was happening was for me to be in that restaurant and continue to do that, which opportunity, when you're doing well like that, opportunities come from that particular franchisor and other franchisors. When we got into the airport business in Tampa, that TGI Fridays, which was our first location in the airport, went from a $2 million restaurant to a $9 million restaurant, which was #1 in the nation. And that was because I was involved in that restaurant every day in developing relationships and developing the business. Now, after we got all this going and growth happened, then I was able to, through development of my team members, I was able to step back and get involved with the MBA, the ABA, to get involved with the with chambers, to get involved with KFC Corporation and the minority franchising group, getting involved with other, a lot of other national organizations, and spending time there.
So what you're saying is buy a franchise, get your hands dirty, get to work, get profitable, get more profitable, expand, get more profitable, and then doors start opening up, and then worry about personal branding or, working on your business and not in your business, but get your hands dirty and get profitable. Is that a good way to say it?
Eric, it is in a sense. I tell people that are looking to get in, it's more important to have a successful one restaurant or two restaurants than to have 10, 20, 100 that are mediocre. That you may have one poor one that brings the one good one down. So it's very important to grow and have a planned growth based off of your base and what you can handle from an infrastructure standpoint, and how the economics play in, and being able to have set aside, because you're going to have that rainy day. You're going to have COVID. You're going to have fires. You're going to have traffic patterns change, and it's going to happen. So you've got to plan for that. So taking it slow, growing according to what your financials look like is very important. Most restaurants on the restaurant side, fail in 80%, 85% fail in the first 3 years. So that's the kind of ratio that you're dealing with.
So I saw on your notes said Starbucks on there, and I thought, Starbucks has a franchise. Nobody owns a Starbucks. Nobody can run a Starbucks. Like, that's all corporate. George Tinsley Sr.'s lying to me. What's going on here with Starbucks? Set the record straight on like owning or running a Starbucks as a franchisee.
With Starbucks is a license agreement, right? And the license agreement in our case went to HMS Host in the airport. That was the initial agreement. As we have grown in Starbucks, and my son, his first job out of college was working in the Starbucks, as he got his business degree. He got into the business, but he started in Starbucks in Atlanta, Georgia. So as we've evolved with our partnership, that we become licensees. So we are in some cases 40% owner of the brand, but HMS Host in some cases is actually the licensee. That has changed over time, where we're on the line as well. So and it's opening up even more every day. So that's how it comes. The Starbucks, HMS Host doesn't today, but had a agreement with Starbucks where they were the premier operators in all the airports. Nobody else could operate Starbucks. So that way, whenever a bidding process, whenever a request for proposal opened up, Host was always the company that was able to bring Starbucks to that airport. Every airport wants a Starbucks. So if there's a package comes out, you've got Starbucks in your package, that gives you a good chance of winning that particular brand. But Starbucks has some very tough hurdles to reach in their overall operations model. And so it's become tougher and tougher. And now there's other competition that's out there that's coming into the airports. And that's how we got involved with Starbucks through our partnership with HMS Host. And we've kind of grown from there.
Got one last question for you, because a lot of the non-food franchisors and franchisees love to hate on food, QSRs, restaurants, and they say it's a very thin margin. Like, it's very easy to lose money in the food business, and the margins are super slim. Can you set the record straight?
Well, there's a lot of truth to that. There are some brands that have more of an opportunity for profit than others. Where you have the flexibility as far as pricing is concerned, obviously high traffic areas where your location is, that you have a better opportunity for growing the top line and getting it down to the bottom line. But in an airport, you're faced with most airports want you to be in line about within 10% of what the street pricing is. But on the other side, in most airports, they want you to give a 10% discount to airport employees. And so let's take an example. If you're pre-security, where most of the employees are, staff and employees, then you're going to get hit pretty heavy as far as the discounting. So you don't have that opportunity. So it's up to you as an operator. I think the top operators, you're able to watch your business close, and you're able to make adjustments and be able to increase the profitability on certain items versus other items where you can't, you got to stay within that 10% guideline, and you got to watch your controls a lot better. But yes, airports are not. It's not an automatic moneymaker, because you got rents, you got guaranteed rents, you're tied to the rents are tied to space. Your rents are tied to adult drinks, beverage. It's just tied to food. So sales. So it's kind of complicated, and you got a bunch of other different dynamics that hit there, because how do you get deliveries from the companies that are making it deliveries? How do you get it from that delivery point to your space? So there's a lot of stuff that needs to be figured out that you don't have on the street. On the street, truck just drives right up, drops off the order, moves on. It's not that easy in the airport, especially with security and so forth. Post-security, employees, parking, what they have to pay for parking, what you have to do to offset some of that. How do you get your deliveries from that delivery point to your space? So many things that a lot of people want to get in, but I always tell them you got to really think through this and you got to understand it. Fortunately for us, we went in with a partner, and we were pre-security, and we learned how to adapt and have grown over the years.
Well, it's clear that, obviously you had a lot of success in franchising, you've had the challenges, but you put in the work. And I think that's kind of one of the takeaways that I have is, like, if you have the tenacity, if you have that type of, mindset that George has, then, franchising is either right for you already, or if you're a buyer out there, you need to ask yourself, do I have what it takes? Because it's nice just to get a paycheck. I couldn't imagine going back to just getting a paycheck. Like, I could not imagine doing that. I cannot imagine anything but being an entrepreneur. But I'm built for the challenges, and I'm okay with the challenges because they will come. Any parting wisdom for anybody that's thinking about buying a franchise before I let you go?
Yeah, Eric, I think everything you said a minute ago is very key. I was fortunate. I came from a very poor, tough situation. I was adopted and raised by a lady who had one leg and couldn't read or write. We had a tough go. She died when I was 13 years old, and her son took me in and raised me. So all of that part of my life, as well as participating in athletics, learning how to win, learning how to lose, getting a good education, all of that helped transfer into that skill set when I had the opportunity to become an entrepreneur. So I had skin in the game, and I knew I had to protect that. I knew that I couldn't relax, couldn't take off, because I wanted to be a win-win situation. And so hard work was no problem. I was up for the challenge, and I loved what I did. So that I think that all worked well for me.
Well, I think we could have gone into that one story and had a really interesting conversation. I think I need to read your book. I'd encourage anybody else out there, check out the book. He's holding it up right now. We'll put both books in the show notes. George, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming on.
Erik, my pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Franchise Secrets podcast. Links to everything can be found over at franchisesecrets.com. And if you want my help with anything from starting your own franchise to growing your current franchise business, please visit scalablefranchise.com.